What's going on, everyone? The market is heating back up again. You guys are definitely going to want to stick around to the end of today's episode. Looking at the S&P 500 today, we saw some upwards movement and we saw some downwards movement, but wait till you guys hear the news. So, Tom, we have a lot going on in multiple areas of the market. We'll start off with the heat map, though. We could see some areas of the market did a lot better than others. Normally, everyone looked at the tech stocks like Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, companies like that. But to be honest, they were not the star of the show today. It was actually the oil stocks with like ExxonMobil and Chevron just soaring. So, Tom, what is going on?
Yeah, this is actually insane. So OPEC Plus is actually going to be cutting production, which is a big thing. And if we go to crude oil's chart right here, we go to a daily chart, crude oil is actually very low as of recent highs. So obviously with the Russia and Ukraine situation, oil is flying up above $100 a barrel, hitting highs up above 130 at one point here on the chart. But with this big production cut coming in, it looks like prices might be going back up, maybe towards some highs. Now, I saw a big warning today where one analyst said we could get to $100 per barrel. And whenever I look at the chart here and I see $100 per barrel, I go, wow, that sounds very, very scary. But OPEC Plus is comprised of a ton of huge countries, obviously, that produce oil, and they obviously work together in a big way. Now, in the United States, this would be not allowed. This would obviously, we would never allow companies to, get together and work like this. But these countries get together and sometimes they, decide to cut production. And in this case, they're going to go ahead and they're going to cut some production here. And it's going to be a big thing for the oil market. And whenever they cut that, it usually drives prices higher. And Mike, there's actually a seasonal thing with crude oil where crude is usually a little bit higher in the summertime, especially with gas prices and everything like that. People are traveling more. It's better for oil companies and even some of these countries if oil is higher. Imagine this right now, like Saudi Arabia, they're probably pissed that the oil is only $75 a barrel. They want it as high as they can get since that's one of their main commodities.
Exactly. So the main thing you guys need to know is look at basically, we're seeing less oil set to be produced. We had a bunch of these top oil producing countries get together and slow down the supply, right? And what does that mean? Higher prices. And this all comes, as, the weather's getting warmer. And like Tom alluded to, people will be traveling more and all that good stuff. So, if you see some higher prices at the pump over the next couple weeks and months, here's the reason why. But what this means for the market is we're actually seeing oil stocks like ExxonMobil, ticker symbol XOM, start to move to the upside, and we have not seen this type of upside movement in a little bit. It's like if we look at a daily chart of ExxonMobil, over the past couple weeks and months, it's been more of like consolidation and chop and I got in some ways downward selling pressure, but the ExxonMobil definitely set the tone today and moved to the upside in a big way. And like I said, we haven't seen upside momentum like this in a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It's been kind of stagnant. And honestly, now with that big jump up today and that big gap, we're almost back up to all-time highs, or at least recent highs of $120 per barrel, at least there. But man, this has been insane here with the way these oil stocks have been rising, and this production cut is just going to help them go up even more, in my opinion. If the price of oil continues to go up, and obviously as we go into these summer months, it should help some of these oil companies. So I honestly would not be surprised, Mike, if some of these companies started breaking these highs here over the next couple weeks. Like CVX is sitting around 170, the all-time high, or the high of recent is right around 190. I feel like we could easily come back up and test that, especially if crude oil starts popping. Like, what's amazing is a lot of these oil stocks are still up pretty high right now on a daily standpoint, but we go look at crude, and crude's actually down quite a bit on a daily standpoint compared to recent highs. So it's kind of like a weird difference in the market there. Like obviously a lot of these U.S. oil companies were holding up even while crude was on this big downtrend.
Yeah, exactly. So keep oil stocks close on your watch list. But Tom, a bunch of people are talking about the situation going on with Trump right now. So I know there's a lot of big news set to release tomorrow. DWAC, which is Trump's social media company, actually moved to the upside today in a pretty big way as it popped by 8.5%. What's the news and what's going on right now?
Yeah, it looks like Trump is gonna be indicted. I mean, he got indicted. I don't know if he's gonna actually end up going into an actual jail cell or if he's gonna end up kind of, I don't know, going to like a special federal prison or etc. But it looks like he's gonna be arraigned tomorrow in the Manhattan Supreme Court. So sounds pretty insane, Mike. This is due to the hush money thing with Stormy Daniels that we've been going over the past couple weeks. It's been kind of making DWAC stock pop in a pretty crazy way. And today, like you said, up 8.54%, starting to get some pretty good momentum coming back in. And I feel like that if Trump really does end up kind of like going to jail, this is going to create a lot of publicity over the next couple days and couple weeks. So keep your eyes on DWAC. That should be a huge stock. If you guys want to learn about this situation, go check out the article on CNBC or screenshot this and read into some of it. But it's pretty funny, like his lawyer had to pay off a porn star, and there's all types of weird stuff involved in this one.
Yeah, so for how it pertains to the stock market, as we said, DWAC is moving to the upside in a pretty big way right now. Basically, this stock moves in a very crazy way, but it's almost always basically because of news or some event. Looking at the daily chart for this stock, it has had an absolutely insane ride. At one point it went from like $10 up to like 160, and then it went back down to 40, and then all the way back up to almost 100, and now it's all the way back down to what, 15 or so. So it's a crazy stock. It moves in some crazy ways, but this event can definitely bring some, you could say craziness, but in this situation, you would think it would be to the upside. So keep it on your radar going into tomorrow and just the rest of the week.
Yeah, it might be a pretty fun one here. And whenever you get big news like this, it's kind of like black swan events. And I feel like this could actually be a pretty good play. I know the options on DWAC are, a little bit crazy out there, obviously with it being such a volatile stock, but it should be fun for the next few days. That's for sure.
Yep. All right. Well, Tom, looking at the schedule for the rest of the week, I know there's not too many earnings that we have to be aware of, but there is some economic data. What's on the schedule?
Yeah, so not really too much on the data front. All the way up until Friday. There's some stuff here you can see like non-manufacturing PMI on Wednesday. That shouldn't be too crazy, but on Friday, we're going to get the unemployment rate and the non-farm payrolls coming out. That unemployment data is going to be huge. The feds always look at that type of data and as a big impact on the economy and everything like that. Obviously, they always look at jobs and unemployment and every part of the economy like that. So keep your eyes out on Friday morning, 1 hour before the market opens. But I will say I'm kind of happy, Mike, that there's nothing too crazy going on here. This way we can actually finally focus on some good price action rather than having to worry about all these crazy events all the time.
Sure that. So going back to the overall market, looking at SPY, Tom, what would you say are the main levels to know going into tomorrow?
So today was a pretty crazy day, I'll say. This morning, we ran up in a big way and topped up here right around 411.40. I think that that's going to be a pretty big resistance for tomorrow, especially considering that we got pretty close to there around market close, right around 411.20. It's almost like a pretty good double top right there. So in the short term, I'm going to be watching that level for tomorrow morning specifically. I will say, though, the SPY is getting pretty overextended right now in a shorter term standpoint. So whenever I'm looking at this, if we end up falling below like this key support here at 408.50, where we've had multiple hits over the past few days, I think we could have a pretty extended sell-off. And I even think that if we get under 409.50, which was a pretty big intraday area from today, I think that even if we fall under here, we could easily come down to retest that 408.50 level. So there's a few levels I'm looking at to the SPY to the downside, but to the upside, I think just playing it for some straight up breakout type of momentum would be a good thing above 411.40.
All right, cool. And then, like, let's say the momentum fizzles out tomorrow. You really touched on like that level right around 408.50. If we break below that, what are like the other levels that you can see SPY retesting?
Yeah, so if we get under 408.50, I would think that there'd be some pretty good momentum down. So we do have to be a little careful here at 408 even. There was a little bit of intraday price action there last Friday, so we got to keep that on the radar there at 408. But I really think that 407.50 would be the big target under 408.50 there. That's a nice 1 point drop, and that 407.50 level has actually had a pretty big a lot of bounces on that same Friday from last week. If we get under there, I think that we could maybe see 404, where there's even a bigger support down here. I actually recently cleaned off my chart. It looks like it's already getting cluttered again, but there's so many levels here on the SPY. The SPY is one of those stocks where there's just so much volatility in it. You always see a lot of nice intraday price action. And I really think that if we start to get under this big 407.50 level, we'll start to maybe even get to 404, maybe even 400 if we start to fall down enough.
Uh-oh. All right.
Not in one day, of course, though.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, Tom, maybe in one day, it depends on the news.
I know, right? Like, who knows? Maybe the Trump indictment thing could cause the market to go crazy, or even something with oil again. Like, oh, there's been so many black swan events lately. I'm waiting for another bank to announce something bad. I mean, I'm just waiting. I'm hoping that nothing like that happens again.
Oh, we'll see, Tom. We'll see. Well, it is now time for some setups for tomorrow, and I'll tell you, you guys are in for a treat today. My two setups are something that I very rarely do. Okay, so these are actually two much smaller companies, and they're just moving in some crazy ways, and I had to touch on them. So the first one is MMAT. It's Meta Materials. It's up like 20% today. There was a ton of just like bullish flow in this stock. It's very oversold in the short term. This stock is absolutely crazy. I would not consider owning it for the long term, but for the short term, considering how much it fell and considering how much, just positive bullish flow I've been seeing with it, it's hard to ignore it. So going into tomorrow and the rest of the week, this stock is a stock I'll be watching very closely. It has that like melt up potential where it's like, if this volume and flow that we saw today continues into tomorrow and Wednesday and, further throughout the week, this thing can really get crazy to the upside. So it's more of a higher risk type play, but there's also higher reward that comes with that.
Mike, is hell freezing over? You're calling out a stock under $1 per share? What's going on today? Wow. Meta Materials. Honestly, Mike, I kind of forgot that this stock was under $1 now. This thing's been falling down so much lately. I can't believe it's all the way back down like this again. But yeah, I hope that it starts to go back up. That was a big move up intraday today. I'll definitely keep this on the radar. Like I said, Mike, it's not every day you call out a stock this low in price here, but this is a pretty popular one. I've heard about MMAT quite a bit. And talking about kind of popular stocks, one that I like is Palantir. I think it's a pretty good stock for tomorrow and the next few days, especially if these growth stocks continue up. What I like about Palantir is they're right at a big resistance, right around 850 to 860. So if we end up breaking 860, I think that could be a pretty good possible play to the upside tomorrow. Palantir has been kind of consolidating down here for a while, and I think they're finally due for a decent little breakout and maybe even a test of $10 sometime soon.
Cool, cool. All right, then with the next one, Tom, it's also kind of crazy, so prepare yourself. We have CANO, okay? This stock's actually up 47% today, and it's another crazy one, right? It's a higher risk, higher reward type setup. Essentially what we have going on here is there's a bunch of changes that are happening with this company. They're doing some asset sales, and they're looking for a new CEO, and the stock's just crazy, right? But over the past couple of months, the stock basically fell from like $10 all the way down to basically $1 per share. And we're also seeing some very bullish and optimistic flows, with this stock. Today there's 34.5 million shares traded. That's a lot, especially for a company like this. Like I said, it's high risk, high reward. But if we continue to see this level of volume and momentum with this stock, there's also there's a decent chance for like a melt up. So it's crazy, but like I said, if this type of sentiment keeps up, this thing can really run to the upside.
Yeah, I like it. I think it has a lot of good momentum, kind of like MMAT. So I will be watching this one too. 47% today. I mean, what a move by both of those stocks today. And man, Cano Health. I've heard about this one a lot the past year. I cannot believe again that you're calling this one out, Mike. It's not every day that we get treated with some awesome stocks like this. These things could be pretty good here. And the timing looks awesome. It's like they just had their first green day after some pretty bad movement lately. So that's good. It's kind of starting the uptrend here.
But hold on, Tom. I have to interject for a second. I would not say they're awesome stocks. I would actually say they're like shitty stocks, but the setup can be awesome. So
yeah, true. I'll give you that. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, they're not awesome stocks, awesome setups, maybe awesome plays for the next few days to clarify there. But 100%, Mike. Man, you're calling out such crazy stocks. I feel bad here calling out Apple now. Apple, I feel like Apple has actually been in a pretty good setup lately, especially if we go out to the daily chart. Man, they're starting to break above a key trend line here on the daily. Ever since we broke above this 155, 156 resistance, and we've been holding this trend line, we've been blasting up. I would not be surprised if Apple continued up a little bit more, maybe to retest like 168 to 170 over the next few days. I will say, though, it's getting a little bit overextended. I know it's hard to trade calls continually up, whenever the stocks are already up this high, but it's pretty crazy right now. The market's recovering, and with this big breakout, I feel like we could see a couple more days of green at least. And who knows, we might get a couple red days mixed in, but I feel like a retest of 170 would be pretty likely.
Yeah, we shall see. All right, Tom. Well, you know what time it is. Time for those momentum plays. With the first one, we have AMD to the downside.
Poor AMD here. They've been actually pretty slow here the past couple weeks, even though some of these other stocks like Apple have been blasting. Go ahead and make AMD break under 94.80, right around that low of day.
All right, with the next one, we have ExxonMobil to the upside.
ZOM, yeah, we had to call this one up today. Man, these oil stocks are insane. I think if they could even break above 116.50 intraday, they could be pretty good for calls.
And with the last one, we have SWBI also to the upside.
Yeah, I'll say Smith & Wesson has been a bit of a sleeper lately. I've been noticing this one starting to move up a little bit as well. Maybe some of the shootings and stuff like that have been affecting this one a little bit. Go ahead and watch this one up above $12.30.
All right, so we have that upside level on SWBI, and we also have that upside level on XOM. If these stocks break above those levels, we're looking at them for potential day trades to the upside tomorrow. And then don't forget about good old AMD with that downside level. If it breaks below that, we're looking at it for a potential day trade down. But it is now time for my favorite part of the video, and that is the big money trade of the day. We had $683,000 go into Ford. They went into the Ford 13 strike call options that expire on May 19th of 2023. And this is pretty interesting, especially as we're seeing Tesla stock fall off from their recent deliveries report. So it's like Tesla actually had record deliveries, but they didn't quite beat expectations. And the stock dumped down by 16%, or no, by 6% today. But Ford and some other vehicle manufacturers actually held up in a pretty big way and actually moved to the upside. So looking deeper at this Ford play, right now Ford is, lingering right around like $12.70. These 13 strike call options are a little bit out of the money, but I feel like it's like a low risk, high reward type setup. It's like, this play is essentially the big money betting that Ford makes a nice move to the upside over the next couple weeks and months. It has until May 19th. So, like I said, I think it's like a low risk, high reward type play where they're betting on Ford to make a nice move to the upside.
Yeah, and I will say Ford has been holding at some of these big supports down here in a pretty big way as well, down here around like 11 and $11.20. There's been a ton of bounces continually here, and we're seeing another bounce again. So I like it. I think at least we could come up to test 14, if not even maybe 15 to 1650 over the next few months. We have to keep in mind Ford's been on a pretty bad downtrend, as a lot of stocks have. Like Meta has been down a lot, and they've been recovering up too. But on like a longer term basis, there's a lot of stocks that are still down a lot from those highs of 2021 and 2022. So I think Ford has a little bit more of a way to go, and I like some of these vehicle companies right now. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, well, the vehicle market's all messed up because of the price of used cars and no one's buying vehicles and this and that and the next. But, Ford's kind of getting into the EVs. So is GM. And I'm kind of curious to see how they do over the next few months up until, what is this, May 19th? This is actually a pretty close expiration here.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens. Keep Ford close on your watch list over the next couple weeks. The big money's definitely betting on a move to the upside. But Tom, going into tomorrow, I'm super excited. We have these oil stocks moving in a way that we haven't seen in quite some time. We have the crazy stocks I mentioned with CANO and MMAT. And at the same time, we're seeing some good movement out of companies like Ford and Tesla. So I'm pretty excited for tomorrow. Do you have any last thoughts or anything else you're watching?
Yeah, I did want to mention a couple other stocks right now, and that's GLD and GDX. I just wanted to keep gold on the radar for everybody. I know that it's been pretty volatile lately, but man, it seems like that this uptrend right now is insane. If we continue to move to the upside tomorrow and over the next couple days, we might start to actually break out with GLD. And I think GDX could be a really good minor ETF to go after. Look at GDX today. It actually ran right up into resistance at 33.30. So if we get a big break here, I think we could see some pretty good moves, and it's good to see them rising with oil too. If commodities are all rising together, that's usually a good sign for gold and oil and just all the metals. Even SLV, that's even a pretty good one right now too, running up to recent resistance.
There we go. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often. And last but not least, huge shout out to today's member of the day, the Electrician X in the Stocked Up Discord. You've been in the chat for a couple weeks now, but you've been asking some good questions and you've been pretty active. So huge shout out to you, and definitely make sure to keep it up. Besides that, thank you guys so much for watching, and let's have an amazing week.